If you don't know me, my name is Janice Holland. I am a licensed therapist. I live overseas right now in Shanghai, China, but I am from the state of Texas, and I run my therapy business online. Mostly, I do see some people in person here in Shanghai and also in the DFW area when I travel back home occasionally. So I'll be home all summer this summer. We'll be seeing clients live there if you're in the area. And I have a group that I run. It's only $25 a session. And so if this resonates with you and is something that you are interested in, I'll give you details on that at the end. The next group starts June 3rd. And I also have a membership that I run. So if you have a therapist or in therapy, or if you are not really wanting to invest in therapy, but do want some support, then I have a membership that I run for, it's mostly women, that there's a few men in there that, offers you some continual ongoing support and your journey of self-discovery, of healing. I'm a trauma specialist. So if you have any trauma in your history or background, which let's be honest, most of us do, then that is there for you. And I also have a certification in trauma that I run for therapists. So lots of different options and things available. But what you are here for today is to understand the good girl syndrome. So I'm not going to hold off any longer. I want to get started on this because we have a lot to go through. So without any further ado, let's get started on the good girl syndrome and what it is to be a good girl. So most of us grow up thinking that we feel really proud when an adult would look at me and say, "Oh, you're such a good girl." You're look at my mom or dad and be like, "Oh, you just have such a good girl." And then I would just feel this sense of pride and the sense of like belonging because I was seen. And so that's kind of the bottom line of what it is to adopt this good girl persona. It's an attempt to fill the need to be seen. Because the bottom line is we are mammals. We are designed, biologically wired and designed for connection. We have to have it for survival. So it's not really an option for us to, if there's something happening or if there is a communication that who we are is not acceptable. So let's say you have really big emotions, or let's say you talk a lot, or if there's some way that you're being and it's communicated to you by the adults in your life or the environment that you're in, that way of being is not welcome here. It's not acceptable here, then that is literally life-threatening to our biological system, to our nervous system, to our sense of being. And I know that sounds dramatic, but that's what research tells us, is that when our connection, when our sense of belonging is threatened, especially before the age of 12, it is a life or death situation. So if you think about it, it makes sense. Like, picture any animal in the wild, any mammal in the wild. If that mammal gets separated from its group, from its pack, what's going to happen? Its nervous system is going to get activated. It's going to panic in some way, right? Fight, flight, freeze. It's going to freak out. And if it cannot find its way back to its group, then it will die. Because mammals are not designed to be able to live, much less thrive and be happy and settled, and unless they are in their group, unless they're connected, unless they're in their pack. So if you are in an environment, whether it's your home or your school or your church or your neighborhood, wherever you are, if who you're being, as children, we are just ourselves. Some children are loud and big emotioned, and some kids are silly and goofy, and we have all these different ways that we just are, but we learn quickly that, and especially for girls, we learn quickly that just being yourself is not going to be acceptable here. Like for me, I learned quickly that having big emotions, that being expressive with anything that I need or want is not allowed, is not welcome. And so I had to learn to close that down, to shut it down, to close it off so that I could remain a part of the group. Because continuing to be myself and being separated from the group is not something that was sustainable for me, and it wasn't for you either. So I want you to first of all think about what was communicated to you as a kid that being this is not acceptable. What was it about who you were when you were little that you learned this kind of self-expression is not allowed here. It's not acceptable here, whether that was in your family or your school. I think about classrooms and schools, like you're supposed to sit there, you're supposed to be quiet, you're not supposed to express yourself, you're supposed to listen, right? Don't talk unless the teacher tells you to talk. And then when the teacher tells you to talk, you need to talk. And like it's all very regimented and scripted. And it's understandable. I get it. There's a lot of people in the room, but even that environment teaches us, don't be yourself. You need to conform to exactly what the expectations are of you in order for you to be allowed to be here, to be acceptable here. Yeah, Maria. So Maria's saying girls are to be seen and not heard. That's right. Look cute, look pretty, smile. Make sure your hair's brushed and you have cute clothes on. And we're just going to look at you and look at your cuteness, but I don't want to hear anything you have to say. I don't want to take care of you or really meet you or connect with you. I just want you to be there and be a cute doll for us to look at. Right. So that's very much a part of the culture that we grew up in. So I'm going to talk about what this does to us over time. But first, I want you to connect to this idea of why you had to diminish your sense of self and become a good girl, and then what it would cost you if you didn't conform, if you didn't do that. Because I know a lot of us really struggle with self-blame and some shame, like, and maybe even perceive it as weak because we did conform, because we did shut ourselves down and follow the rules. But it's not a weakness because it's literally a survival strategy to be able to maintain connection with a group whom with you belong. Right. So we had to do what we needed to do to conform and continue to be a part of the group and be accepted and create some sense of belonging so that we could survive, so that we could maintain who we are. But what is interesting over time is that we then tend to think that this persona that we've put on ourselves is us. I am a good girl. I am quiet. I am compliant. I am someone who's in acts of service all the time, right? So these are roles that we're playing, but they're not us. And that's really confusing and it can be hard to sift out. But I want to talk about, I'm going to go into more details about that and then kind of unpack a little bit what it's been costing us to do this over time. But can anyone else think of an example of a role you played or a way that you diminished yourself when you were younger so that you would be acceptable to your family, to your community, to your church, to your school? What are some things that you did to make sure that you remained acceptable, always giving to others? Yeah, for sure. Okay, so does it make sense that this is a self-protection? Being good is a way that we protected ourselves from being rejected or for being unwanted. Okay. Yep. Doesn't get into trouble, makes good grades, does the right thing. So this is like, think of it as pieces of armor feels too heavy. Even though it is heavy, it's more like shields, force field shields, like these shields of protection that we accept and put on and adapt to so that we make ourselves palatable to our environment so that we are seen as belonging and accepting. And that's why when an adult would look at us and say, oh, you're such a good girl, or maybe even now you are still, because I can relate to that too, like you thrive when your boss or your spouse or when somebody looks at you and says, I wish I could clone you. You're just so great. I love you. You're so good. Like you're just so amazing, right? When we just live for those moments when somebody recognizes something that we're doing, but my point here is that it's about the doing, not the being of self. So over time, when we continue to build this persona and play this role, then we are curating a version of us that is acceptable to our environment, but it is a curated version, a role that we're playing. It's not truly who we are. There might be aspects of this role that we're playing, but that's why you feel this chronic sense of emptiness. That's why you feel you're in this cage. You're in a cage of this persona that you can't break out of because the belief system around breaking out of it is if I stop playing this role, I'm going to be alone. Nobody's going to want me. I won't feel love. I won't be accepted because I've spent a lifetime curating this version of myself that's acceptable for other people, but I'm not, that's her, that's not me. But many times we don't even realize that this isn't. I know for a long time, I thought this was me. And then I thought I was crazy because I wasn't happy. Because I had curated this version of me that was very acceptable, the perfect loving wife, a hardworking person who was earning money, I like a great mom. I had this persona, but then like internally I just felt this emptiness. Can you relate to that? Like you're like, I could walk away from it all. And then I felt so guilty for feeling empty and for feeling like I could walk away because and then I had to really dig deep and understand that this persona that was so acceptable to my environment, that was so pleasing for other people, was not the full version of me. It was a curated version of me that I had built over time. And what is really scary about that, or what was scary about that for me, was that I don't have any idea what it means to not be that because I've spent my whole life building her. So if you're telling me that that's not really me, I don't even know what that means. Right. So maybe you can relate to that. Like okay, so I believe you, Janice, and I stopped doing that today, I wouldn't know where to start. I don't know what that means. I have no idea who I am outside of this persona that I've built. All right. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit and kind of help us unpack it some so that we can begin to tap in to the pieces of us who have not been allowed to develop. So the way I think of it is, you know, year after year as a kid, we develop physically. Like those of you with children, like suddenly the bone structures are a little more pronounced and formed, or your kid gets taller each year, or maybe they build some body and then they grow the height to match into the body. Like, as our kids grow and develop and change over time, they're acquiring different physical features, but they're also acquiring language skills, sophistication in language, emotional regulation capacities. We're just watching our children slowly develop over time and gain these tools and skills, and then their physical development as well. And obviously, of course, the same thing happened for us, but what didn't happen, because we in an environment where only this one curated version of us was allowed to be seen and developed. So we spent a lot of time, all of our time, developing this persona, but there's many, many pieces of us that are completely dormant, that haven't had an opportunity, that haven't had any sunlight and water. Right? There's still a seed that's dormant within us. And so that's why it feels so scary and impossible. And I can't just stop being her because there's nothing that's not her, right? And so we're going to add some water and some sunlight to these seeds within us and begin to grow and develop these other pieces of us. And how we know what they are is through desire. So if you have desire within you for anything, if it's to express yourself and a certain kind of fashion, if you have a desire for learning or acquiring some skill of some sort, like I don't know, dance classes or pottery or finance, or, what is it that you desire? What is it that's lingering in the back of your mind that you feel like you don't have time for? It's pointless. There's no meaning to it. Nobody understands it. I'm too old to do that. I'm too old to pursue that. But desire is how you know what the little undeveloped seeds are within you. And if you're feeling empty, if you're feeling like life is boring, if you're feeling like it's pointless, like you have a beautiful life, but you could walk away from it, then that is a signal. That's an indicator. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not crazy. You're not ungrateful. You're not a bad person because you have that feeling, even though you have some things that you're grateful for and that you like, but you don't feel like the fullness of it. Then that is your indicator that it's because those things that you have are connected to this curated version of you, not the real you. There's a dissociation, right? Because you have this persona and then you have you. And the persona is pieces of you, but it is not the full you. And so if you're struggling right now with feeling lost, lonely, empty, frustrated, like life isn't enough, and you're feeling guilty about that, first of all, I want you to know that it's normal, that many of us can relate to this feeling. It's pervasive and it is fixable without having to blow up your life. Right. And that being said, maybe your life needs to be blown up, but you don't need to. That's a whole other conversation for another day. What I'm saying is you can begin to water and put some sunshine on these little seeds within you without having to leave your marriage. Like if those things need to happen, they need to happen. But and again, that's another conversation. But if for right now, what you need to focus on is what are these little seeds within me that I want and need to grow and develop? And let myself evolve over time and step into and bring this curated version of me back to me. And in that process of bringing her back to me, I get to decide what elements of her I want to keep and what elements of her are not serving me anymore. And this is a really, really powerful, important point I want you to hear. You needed to create this persona to survive. You needed to. This was a survival strategy. But now you're older, you're an adult, it's not serving you anymore. You don't need it anymore. You can, as an adult, put yourself in environments where if somebody doesn't accept who you are, you get to leave, or you get to set a boundary, or you get to say, screw you, or you get to say, take it or leave it. You have options now as an adult that you did not have as a child. You didn't get to say those things as a kid. I was talking to my brother yesterday. He's dealing with something with one of his kids, and thankfully, his child is able to be very self-expressive on what they need and how they feel about what's happening. And I said to my brother, I was like, what would have happened if you had done that to our parents? And he was like, I would not have survived. Like that, it was not an option he's like, good Lord, like there's no way, And so we were just talking about how generationally it's very difficult to raise kids, and he was having a hard time, but also like felt a little bit of pride that his child is able to be very self-expressive and say what they feel is right or wrong, and how we didn't get that luxury as a kid, or like we would not have been allowed to, like, first of all, I don't even know if physically we would survive being that self-expressive, but if we did survive, we would have absolutely been isolated and alone. And as a mammal, again, like that is a life or death situation, right? So whatever you did, whatever persona you attracted and adopted and became, it's out of survival. It was necessary at the time. It's just that it's not serving you anymore. And we need to now reevaluate how to step out of that. But it can feel really, really scary. And I'm sure a lot of you here can relate to that. Might be why you're here. Like, I kind of get it. I don't even want to be this way anymore, but I don't know how not to be. I don't know how to be in a room and say my opinion. I don't know how to tell somebody no. I don't know how, that feels impossible to me in my body. When I think about actually doing that, it feels impossible. So if you can relate to that, you're not alone. And I'm glad you're here because I'm going to give you some tools and first of all, just some understanding of what's happening. So, and why it feels so impossible in your body, and then give you some tools to begin to break that up so that you can start to kind of play with it and test out when and where you can begin to be more self-expressive and find what that means for you, what that looks like for you to be unfiltered and unguarded. So what's happening if I'm going to use the example of I want to begin, like, when I'm in a room of people, a social environment with many people, some I know well, some I don't know that well, some I don't know at all, then if you're the person who is typically kind of just on the outskirts, you're going to talk probably to people you know pretty well, but you don't know how to just like show up and start conversations with people. And so you want to challenge yourself to I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to walk into a social setting and just like start chatting with people. I just want to be myself. But you show up and then your body locks, your body freezes. And it's like, I don't even have a thought that I would say to somebody. Can you relate to that? Where you're just like, I don't know how to do anything other than just stand here and look acceptable, because that's all we were told we were allowed to do, right? Stand there, look cute, have a cute outfit on, be acceptable, but keep your mouth shut. So if you can relate to that, that's why now, like you want to be able to relax into being in social situations, but you've been conditioned And so your nervous system hasn't had exposure to expression in social settings and social environments. And when our nervous system hasn't had exposure to something, it doesn't know how to navigate. So this may help a sort of parallel example. If you've ever learned to drive. Do you remember when you were first learning how to drive and behind the wheel of a car and like your nervous system was not okay, right? Like it was scary and it was like, you want me to get on the highway and have to change lanes on the highway and have to exit. Like I remember being terrified and I remember thinking, I don't want to do this. But then in my mind thinking, but I want the independence of driving and like all these people around me figured this out. So I like forced myself to keep going and to keep learning to drive. And now it's like my nervous system is so regulated to that experience that it's unconscious getting in the car, turning it on. Sometimes driving home, I pull up in my driveway and I don't even remember the drive home. That's how unconscious it becomes for us to just do something. And it's because I exposed my nervous system to the experience over and over and over again so that it doesn't activate while I'm driving anymore. And so if you have a desire within you, now again, this is about if you don't have a desire to be in a social situation where you're just chatting with all kinds of different people and getting to know new people, then then that's not a seed in you that needs to grow. Your desire is focused somewhere else. That's okay. But if you have a desire inside of you to be able to just have fun with people and connect with new people and get to know people and be the woman who's, chatty or the person who's just comfortable and social, that's a desire within you, then we need to begin to expose your nervous system. And that's why it's like you go into the freeze response, the stress response. And that's why your mind is blank. You don't know what to say, even if you could say something. Your body feels locked and tight and anxious, right? It feels like you physically can't do it. So we kind of need to stair step our way into it. So challenging yourself, and this is a great where ChatGPT can do wonders for us. Like, hey, give me some sentence starters for when I am in a new social situation. Give me 10 choices and look at what feels like it could be you. So that's one way you could do it. Like challenge yourself. I'm going to ask one person one question. And that is you're exposing your nervous system to the experience so that it learns I'm safe now. I'm not rejected now. And if somebody does give me a weird look, it doesn't matter. This isn't life or death anymore. I'm an adult. I can go talk to somebody else about something else. So that's one option. Another option is wear a really cool piece of jewelry or have a really cool different phone case. Have something interesting that would prompt somebody to come to you and say, hey, I love your necklace. That's so cool. Tell me about it. Or where'd you get it? And that can prompt some conversation for you. And what you're doing is you're allowing your nervous system to be exposed to different situations and different environments so that it can begin to regulate and normalize feeling seen and feeling safe. I'm going to say that again. What we want is to feel seen and feel safe while we're being seen. And the reason why right now, when you are truly seen, when somebody sees you, you freak out and you close down and you shut down. It's because it's like the real you has been in this dark cave and it's shoved out into the sunlight and it's like it feels like too much. And so it activates our stress response. It activates our fight, flight, freeze response. So what we're doing now is beginning to offer opportunities to be seen. Somebody sees us and we can regulate our nervous system in that state. We can put our hand out in the sunshine and understand that we're fine. It actually feels good and warm because the more you are able to be seen, that is where you will feel alive. That is where the emptiness will begin to dissipate. That is where you begin to feel light and free and not locked behind this cage that you don't have any way to get out of. You do have a way out. The door is open to the cage now as an adult. We just don't realize that. And our nervous system doesn't know how to handle and manage the exposure that comes with stepping out of the cage. So we have to just be patient with ourselves and slowly begin to acclimate to life outside of the cage. Does that make sense? And that's not going to be able to happen if you are stuck in self-judgment, if you're stuck in self-blame, if you're stuck in thinking that you're stupid or that you have, I don't know, we just come up with all these thoughts about ourselves. No, like this good girl persona is something that you put on as a very needed strategy for acceptance and survival. And now we're going to begin to unpack that and take it off so that we can connect more with the world around us and come alive in who we are and water these seeds within us of desire so that we can be the fullest expression of who we were created and designed to be. And when we are allowed to be that expression, then life feels rich and full and meaningful. And we don't just in our minds feel grateful for what we have, but we truly feel it from the inside out because we are just so connected to the life that we're getting to live and the fullest expression of who we get to be. And we can tolerate people's opinions and judgments about that. If you're going to be seen, there will be somebody who judges who you are. That's just the way it is. But we can tolerate it now. It's not life or death anymore. It's okay if somebody doesn't like who I am and the way I live my life. It's okay. They get to have that opinion. It's not going to cost me anything. For me to say that, guys, if I can get to a place where I can say that, then anybody can, because I very well remember the day when I would have rather died, literally died, and have somebody see me as anything other than good and acceptable to them. But I had to come to a place where I was so miserable living the life they wanted me to live that, research is telling us that in order, like we're so hardwired to repeat patterns. Like our biological system hates change so much that the cost of not changing has to be more miserable than the change itself. And I hit that tipping point where not being myself was so miserable that that cost was greater than the pain of going through the process of change. So my hope today is that if you're here, I'm going to assume that you are beginning to wake up to the reality of like, I don't want to be this curated version of myself anymore, but I don't know how not to be. My goal is to give you some understanding, first of all, and then some tools and resources on how to begin to step out of that, because the change process is hard. It's painful because our bodies, our systems, our minds hate change. But if you have some tools and some understanding, then my hope is to make it something that's easier for you to walk through and to process. Okay, so what I want to do now is go into kind of a guided meditative experience where you're connecting with your inner self. Shannon, thank you so much for sharing. She is just saying that she's finding herself after her divorce of 28 years because he cheated. And Shannon, I can relate to you. I was with my ex for I think we were together 25 years. And after 20 years of marriage, this is also when I began the journey of really finding and understanding myself. I think I had done a lot of work before that, but I just was really stuck in a lot of ways. And it was because it wasn't until after my marriage ended that it really propelled my experience. So I'm glad that you're here, and I hope that you are able to gain some tools and resources. My ex came out and as a gay man, and so that was very unearthing in many, many, many ways. So I understand the pain of your whole world that you've built, your whole life that you've built being completely turned upside down and starting again. Very undoing, but I can tell you now, 5 years out, that I am more free than I've ever been and happier than I've ever been. But it wasn't an overnight easy process to get here. So I'm glad that you're here and I want to support you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you for sharing. What I'm going to do now is kind of go into, like I said, a more guided experience for you. So if you will, get to a place where you are comfortable, close your eyes. If you don't want to close your eyes, that's okay. Kind of just a soft gaze is okay too. And I want you to picture, first of all, I want you to to put yourself in a safe place. So wherever your mind decides that is okay. It can be somewhere natural. It can be somewhere supernatural. It can be by the ocean, in the mountains, in a large grass prairie. It can be in a cozy bedroom. It can be in heaven. It can be anywhere that feels really good and comforting and safe for you. Okay. And before we go any further, I want you to fortify this space so that it is really, truly safe. So it can be anything natural or supernatural just around the perimeter of this area to ensure that you are guarded and protected. So you can put concrete walls, electric fences, superheroes, angels, Jesus, anything that feels like if it's there, I can be protected and safe inside here. Okay, come to the center of your safe space, and I want you to picture yourself as a little girl. And whatever age comes to you when I say that, that's the age it's meant to be for this exercise. So if you're 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, or if you're 10, 11, 12, whatever age, when I say picture yourself as a little girl, and bring her into this safe space. Give her a hug, welcome her there, ask her if she wants anything, if she needs a blanket or a puppy dog or a cat or a horse or a hammock or a playhouse, whatever she wants that feels good to her, that would make her happy. Okay, get in a position where you can be eye to eye to her. So she's sitting in your lap or you're kneeling beside her, sitting beside each other. Just kind of get in a place where you're really eye to eye with her and tell her, hey, we had to be good in order to feel loved, and that wasn't okay. The truth is we get to feel loved because of who we are, not because we're good. And I want you to ask her, what did you have to hide? What part of you did you have to hide so you could be good and feel loved? Maybe she shows you a picture, takes you to a memory, or feel an emotion, or maybe she's talking to you. Either way, it's okay. All right. So tell her now we're going to start. I'm going to take responsibility for beginning to show this part of us now. It's safe now. It wasn't safe then. Thank you for hiding it and keeping it safe, but now it's safe. And I'm going to begin to connect with that part of us so we can express it. And maybe when you tell her that, she feels scared and worried. And that's okay. Give her a hug and tell her she has good reason because it was scary back then, but it doesn't have to be scary anymore. And we're going to take our time and learn how to express this part of ourselves. All right. Tell her, I know there's so much more conversation we need to have about this. And there's so many other pieces that I want to find of who we are. And we're going to do that over time. All right. Give her a hug. Make sure she has something fun there to do in the safe place that she loves. And when you're ready, come back here with me. Okay, now that you have this safe space and this inner little girl, that you can go there as often as possible, hopefully once a day or a few times a week, and connect with her and just get to know her and build trust with her and love on her. And she will tell you if you're not sure what those seeds are inside of you that haven't been exposed to sunlight and water, she will show them to you, right? We just have to take a moment to listen and to connect. I'm going to shift into one other thing to do before we go. Okay, what I'm going to do is put this worksheet in the chat for you. And I think I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that I can explain it. Okay, so I'm going to drop this in the chat in just a little bit. And this is like a reflection worksheet for you to use as you kind of go back in and do some journaling work around this. You check in with your inner little girl and begin to unpack the ways she's been hidden and just develop that relationship with her. Here are some journal prompts for you to kind of work through. How have I been good instead of being real? What emotions have I silenced to be acceptable? Where do I feel the most pressure to perform? What part of me is craving to be expressed, seen, or heard? Or what would change if I trusted that who I am is already enough, right? So there's just some things for you to kind of journal and work through. Here is a somatic exercise. Getting into our body and feeling in our body is what's going to be it's going to expedite this process for you. Something that those of us who are good girls we're very much in our head. We're very good processors. We think through things. We're very task oriented. We're very good at being in our head and thinking. And so what's going to heal this is getting more into your body. And that's why I've provided a somatic exercise for you, because it's what's going to help you embody and empower these new concepts and new ways of being. So here's an exercise you can do to kind of help with that. And a challenge for you, saying no without explanation. Like if you don't want to do something, or you don't agree with something, or you don't like something, sometimes over time we learn to say no. Like early when I was in my younger years, I couldn't even say no. But now or for a while, I would say no, but then I felt like I had to really explain why I was saying no, like over explain myself. So my challenge for you is to now step into, if you don't like something or don't want to do something or don't agree with something, just say no without giving an explanation. Or if you give a very brief explanation, just not going into that needing to explain yourself. All right. Share your true opinion without softening it to please people, and to let yourself rest, even if others are still doing more. These 3 challenges will be very challenging, right? But these are the building blocks to getting out of this miserable, stuck place that you are finding yourself in, of being good all the time, right? Yes, Shannon, these 3 challenges are very hard. All right, so I want to affirm that for you and tell you this is the work that it takes to kind of bust out of this cage that you feel like you're stuck inside of. All right, here's an affirmation for you just to kind of help you. And then this is more just for you to break it down a little bit more. So at work, some signs that you may be stuck, some ways to break free, and then a space there for you to share your ideas as a partner, as a parent, as a friend, and then interpersonally. Some ways that you might be stuck, and then some ways that you can begin to break free out of being stuck. Okay, and I want to remind you that I do have the membership. This is where we have an ongoing conversation about this, and there are lots and lots and lots of classes just like this one that I taught for you to begin to really do this work. And then I also have the group and I will give you a link for that, where it's a very small group. Like my group right now has 6 women in it, and we meet every week, and it's a very curated experience, intimate experience, where we're working together to really break out of this cage. And it runs for 8 weeks. Okay. And then those of you who are therapists or coaches, here are some ways that you can begin to do this work with your clients. All right. So what I'm going to do now is first stop sharing my screen. I'm going to share my screen one more time and give you one more resource, kind of a one-stop shop. So what I'm going to do is send you to this website. I can find how to share. Here we go. I call it bullshit. Like, we're tired of the bullshit. We're tired of the games. We're tired of the, pleasing. We're tired of playing a role. So here is a free checklist for you if you're ready to start. Just like it, these are 8 areas, things you can identify and begin to like a checklist. All right. This is the Courageous Living group. Like I said, the next one starts on June 3rd. It's only $200 for 8 weeks of connection with me and a small group of women to do this work together. And then the membership is more of an ongoing, we meet once a month, but we have a chat that we're talking in, and there are hours and hours of the master classes like this one, where it's more of a self-paced experience. That's $47 a month. And then if you are a therapist or coach and you want to help others recovering from their bullshit, then here's a workbook for you. And then also I have a certification that I offer. So I'm going to put this link here. It has all of this information for you to check out. Here's my Instagram, my email, my YouTube channel, my podcast. So it's all just kind of here for you to check out. I would absolutely love to have you in any one of these experiences. And I hope that you found this workshop powerful and helpful for you in starting your journey of recovering from being a good girl. I really hope this was helpful for you. It is such a journey to recover from being a good girl, but worth it. I'm glad you were here. I'm glad that you like the name, Shannon. I like the name too. No more bullshit. We're done with the bullshit.
Exactly. My life has been, I call it my shit show.
That's right. We're not taking people's bullshit anymore.